Please now welcome our final speaker for the evening, Ms. Arianna Laolagi, and her thesis, Practicing What We Preach, the Christian Argument for Church Participation in Social Justice Protests.
Social justice. What do these two words mean to you? What images do they inspire? For some of you, these two words, social justice, might have triggered an almost instinctive negative response. Having been developed especially this last summer with liberal SJWs, social justice warriors, ruthlessly pressuring for the progression of political agendas that battle your own. With the rise of protest movements, most notably Black Lives Matter, Christians have burdened these words with a surmounting amount of stigmatization, stripping them of their complete meaning and context. To protest for social justice is an essential part of the church's ability to fulfill its mission. But why? The church does not operate inside of a vacuum, a haven safe from politics. It must be a present and active voice against the evils that plague our world. The World Council of Churches supports this conclusion in its public declaration that the church must speak boldly in Christ's name, both to those in power and to the people, to oppose terror, cruelty, race discrimination, to stand by the prisoner and the refugee and the outcast. To protest these afflictions is a priority because its counter, silence, will only cripple the church's ability to draw a willing audience. When the church protests, it shows its unique love and care for the communities it seeks to save. Without the connection, the credibility, and the clear conviction that social justice protests amplify, the church cannot expect the world outside of its walls, the world in most need of its divine message, to listen. Tell me, how convincing, how attractive is, I love you, but I don't care that your civil rights are being violated. No, I want to save you, but I won't object to the tragic murder of your son. I am here for you, but I won't protect you from the political powers when they seek to take your life. But of course, the value of social justice cannot be solely dependent on its ability to promote positive public relations. It is also a natural extension of the church's primary mission. Although the definition of social justice has been distorted to be the undertaking of violent rhetoric for the sake of blame and the pressuring of liberal ideologies, social justice, according to Tim Dearborn, accredited director at the Fuller Theological Seminary, is the restoration of God's original design for human society through delivering what is due. In biblical terms, social justice is demanded of us by God in Leviticus 19:15, when he orders that there be no injustice in courts. And he exhorts his people to be partial to the poor and defer to the great. Although this command is specific to the Jewish theocracy, it is still a clear representation of God's will that we, as his church, as his body, must fervently protect and maintain until his second coming. Our obligation to deliver social justice is also demonstrated in Jesus' ministry. He summarizes the scope of his mission in Luke 4:18 through 19, when he says to the church in Nazareth, "The Spirit of the Lord is on me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim freedom for the prisoner, recovery of sight to the blind, and to set the oppressed free." There are two acts in this proclaimed mission. One, to proclaim, and 2, to set. Therefore, the mission of the church extends beyond just spreading the good news and demands direct action to take a controversial, consequential, and only coincidentally political stand against the distortion of his design. But why through protests? A protest is a statement or action publicly objecting to or disapproving of something, most popularly the form of demonstrations, petitions, and strikes. Given that they are part of the 95% of protests that remain peaceful throughout, protesting is proper means for the church to expose the secular, rebellious world to its divine message. The four Gospels brim with Jesus' public protests against the corrupt civil order of his time in order to fulfill the law and restore the image of his Father. Evident by the great controversy and the consistent attacks of the political figures, the Pharisees, the enforcers of this Jewish law, Jesus' confrontations were nothing short of what society today would define as public civil unrest. Remember John 8, 1 through 11, when Jesus intervenes and stops the law-sanctioned execution of an adulterous woman in direct defiance of the Pharisees' wishes. Reflect on Mark 3, 1 through 6, when Jesus disobeys the law of the Sabbath day in order to heal a man. Jesus sought his own means, outside of the walls and limits of political compliance in politics, in order to bring relief to an afflicted society. As the church remembers its failure to save marginalized members of our society in the past, such as Jews during the Holocaust, it cannot be remembered for its failure in the present to use its God-sent voice and platform in order to save Uyghurs who are still being tortured in re-education camps in China, or to condemn police brutality in both Nigeria and America, or to reunite children refugees who were locked in ICE detention camps with their families. Nor can the church stand idle when political powers strip it of its divine liberty to gather safely in worship, or when unborn children are refused their right to life, or when its divine message is censored. The church can no longer sit protected behind its closed doors, admiring and studying Jesus' response to the issues of his own time, while remaining ignorant of our own. The delivering of social justice is the continuation of Jesus' mission and the claiming of our divine role as protectors of his design, of his law. Social justice. I hope these words mean something different to you today. Thank you.